If you are the meeting host, enter the host.
No feedback?
It's when the doors, it's too many speakers.
All right.
Okay, so if everybody can maintain their mute at this time, we are currently going to start recording. We just want to let you know that we are currently going to start the recording and the streaming now.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay, good. Good evening. We call our meeting to order, please.
Yes. 1
And
second.
clerk, roll call.
Mayor, 1 second, please.
Are we ready?
Just a second. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, call our meeting to order, please. Roll call.
Just a second, Mayor. Mayor Jones?
Here.
Vice Mayor Johnson?
Here.
Commissioner Brunson?
Here.
Commissioner Dorset?
Here.
Commissioner Smith?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Let's bow for our invocation. Dear God and Father, we're grateful for this evening. We do ask for your guidance, for the wisdom to carry our business of our city with equity. We do ask that you would now, God, support what we do and we find your approval. Amen. Let us all now have our pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, we have our city attorney who will read our virtual meeting rules of procedure.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. Pursuant to Executive Order Number 2069, issued by the Office of Governor Ron DeSantis on March 20th, 2020, municipalities may conduct meetings of their governing boards without having a quorum of its members present physically or at any specific location. And utilizing communications media technology, such as telephonic or video conferencing, as provided by Section 120.545B2 Florida statutes. The members of the City Commission appearing remotely for this meeting are Commissioner Brunson, Commissioner Dorset, Commissioner Smith, Vice Mayor Johnson, and Mayor Jones. Members of the Commission, this is a virtual meeting, and when you are not speaking, please mute your telephone button so that we have the highest quality sound and can produce an accurate record. Additionally, in order to maintain order, please use the wave button so that Mayor Jones knows that you desire to speak and will place you on the speaker list. This virtual meeting was authorized by the Governor of the State of Florida, and an opportunity was given to the public to email the City Clerk prior to this City Commission meeting with any questions, comments, concerns on items that we will hear on this evening's Commission agenda at the email address publiccomments@cityofwestpark.org. This meeting can be seen tonight by live stream through Facebook and YouTube by going to the city's website, www.cityofwestpark.org. All public comments that were sent to the email address, publiccomments@cityofwestpark.org, prior to 5 p.m. today, will be read into the public record at a word count not to exceed 400 words, which is the equivalent of 3 minutes. All of the comments will be included as a part of the public record for this virtual meeting. The commission meeting agenda was published on the city's website on Thursday, May 14, 2020, for public meeting posting requirements. Commissioners, are you comfortable with all the notice provisions that have been set forth and these rules of procedure that have been established for this virtual meeting?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. This time, as you know, each year we go up to Tallahassee and we meet with the representatives and senators as it relates to striving to get some type of support from Tallahassee. At this time, we have a presentation on the annual legislative update. Representative Chevron Jones. Over the years, he has been very effective in bringing us back some resources and funds from Tallahassee. Representative Jones, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Mayor, and to the entire commission, West Park Commission. It's very good to see you all. Sorry under these circumstances, but it's definitely good that that we have still found a way to serve the constituents of the city of West Park. Unfortunately, this is my last legislative update that I would give to the city of West Park in my capacity as a state representative. And before I go into my legislative update, I would definitely like to say how much of a pleasure it has been to serve the constituents of the city of West Park for the last 8 years. You will hear in our presentation of what we have been able to accomplish here in Tallahassee. And it's been a true partnership with each of you as commissioners, and especially with the city manager Balagon. I appreciate your friendship, and I also appreciate the opportunity that it has been to serve you since 2012, when I did not know what a legislative update means. Excuse me. So I thank you all for that opportunity to be able to do that. Even as I prepare to go into my legislative update, there are I constantly see comments and things that are being said and posted of the work that has not been done in Tallahassee. But I will tell you that after this legislative update, we will share what has been done in Tallahassee, because the division that individuals are trying to bring to the city of West Park are from individuals who have never represented the city of West Park, had no interest in the city of West Park. And all they're doing is trying to get political gain out of the city of West Park. And I believe that we have a close-knit family in Cava Ranches, city of West Park. And I truly believe that after this update, the truth will know, individuals will know what has been done, because as my parents always taught me, the truth stands on its own. And so we will, that's how I govern myself. And so I will give you the legislative update that we have. And I'm going to give you a comprehensive look at what we have accomplished over the past 8 years, Mayor, if you will allow me to do that. We have, over the past 8 years, and the city manager has the documents to show that we have requested and we have advocated and brought home over $6.1 million specifically to the city of West Park. $6.1 million that we brought to the city of West Park. And anyone who wants those documents, you can contact my office, and Jessica and or Marina will be able to show you those dollars that we have requested. 2012 is not included in that, because that year we were not, the state was not, we did not get we weren't assigned a bill number for a bill project. but that is easily found where we can get the numbers of what we what we brought in even in 2012, which will be more. For the entire District 101, we have brought in more than $121 million into the district. And that does not just include District 101, but that includes funds that we have been able to bring on from into other districts within the state of Florida. Florida's budget has allowed us to prevent youth crime, provide senior services. It also has allowed us to ease traffic, to rejuvenate our parks and facilities, improve the drainage within the city, and construct pedestrian lighting. In addition to the $6.1 million that directly service West Park, we also brought back dollars to residents indirectly. In the 2020 session, for example, we got nearly $250,000 for the Broward County and Family Health Centers for cervical cancer prevention and detection. We have a medical clinic right here in West Park to screen women for cervical cancer and improve their health outcomes. In the 2019 session, I secured $100,000 for the Foundation for Sickle Cell Disease Research, which was extremely hard to do, but we were able to do that. And then in 2020 session, I was able to increase that amount to $1 million for the sickle cell disease research that we brought back home. As we know, sickle cell disease is disproportionately affects Black people, and I'm sure that our residents who have sickle cell or know someone who has sickle cell will benefit from the research in that area. In the 2020 session, I was able to secure $800,000 for Broward County HIV test and treat program. I also advocated for money for Broward College as well as our state HBCUs so that we can offer our young residents a bridge to some type of successful future. And we successfully secured $5 million in the 2019 session for Nova Southeastern University to do clinic-based outreach, which has helped our residents specifically, which ensured that West Park, Hallandale, Hollywood, and in East Miramar area could have access to free medical checkup at Nova Southeastern University. So even beyond the $6.1 million that has gone directly to West Park, we have pushed for and $1 for indirect assistance to West Park residents. As far as legislative bills, I take great pride in what we have done. And before I go any further, if you all will please allow me to thank Jessica and Marina in my office for the work that they have done over the years to help. That includes Jarek. That includes Chris Pitts. That includes Frankie. I hope I'm not missing anyone who has worked here in the office who have passed through the city of West Park. We passed a bill for police body cameras. After what happened to Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, Trayvon Martin, Eric Garner, Walter Scott, Tamir Rice, and so many more, we know that we need accountability. So body cameras protect both citizens and officers because we have evidence of the encounters. We needed that for our communities, and we needed for justice and for closures. It was a partnership that was made through the police association, and it was in the community. We all were able to pass together. And now we also passed 2 consecutive dignity for incarcerated women bills in 2019 and in 2020 sessions alongside Senator Pizzo. The first bill amended procedures so that we could prevent sexual assault of incarcerated women. It ensured that women who are in correctional facilities are provided with tampons, pads, toothbrushes, toothpaste, and soap that is not lye-based. Then once we did that, we passed the second one in the 2020 session because of what happened to Tammy Jackson. That bill ensured that pregnant women incarcerated are protected and cared for through their pregnancy and labor. I worked with a coalition of people to pass those 2 criminal justice reform bills to specifically help women in Florida's correctional facilities. Finally, the bill that I'm most proud of, that Orange County just passed an ordinance, and cities and counties all across the state are passing them to allow them to enter their cities, and that is the needle exchange bill that I was able to do alongside Senator Oscar Brayman. The bill expanded the pilot program that Dr. Hansel led at the University of Miami called the Idea Exchange. And this bill allowed for other counties across Florida to establish their own needle exchange programs. It will reduce the impact of opioid crisis and reduce the spread of diseases that can spread by needle, like hepatitis C, like HIV. And I'm very proud of that bill, particularly because it took so many years for my colleagues, 15 years to be exact. 15 years it took to pass that bill, but last year we were able to get that bill across the finish line in a bipartisan manner with all the members voting except 2. And so now I have reached my term limit of serving the residents of West Park as your representative. But you have my promise that I will continue to fight for the needs here, no matter what, no matter what happens. And so again, to the commission, I thank you so much for allowing me to serve you all for these last 8 years. It's been a true pleasure. And Lord and behold, I will say that, you know, even if what I am pursuing, if it does not go in the way that that the Lord would allow, I will say that it has been a pleasure to serve you all during this time. I will hope, it is my hope, that the citizens of West Park will reach out to our office still to find truth in what actually is true and what has happened and what we have been able to do in Tallahassee through collaboration. There are a lot of people who are continuing to spread lies and continuing to do things that is not true and does not speak to who West Park, or let me say this, who Carver Ranches is. Because I was raised in Carver Ranches, and I'll tell you this: that I will ensure that my fight to continue to work here in West Park, Carver Ranches, will be represented by individuals who will ensure that it is the interest of people who is being exalted and not themselves. And thank you so much, Mr. Mayor.
We thank you, Rep. Shell, and we appreciate, and we can attest to the fact for every year that I've been in office, we've been up to Tallahassee and we've made our plea and we've always come back with resources. And so again, we appreciate your service, and we do have a commendation that we want to give to you tonight, Honorable Representative Chevron Jones. Whereas Honorable State Representative Chevron Jones served 8 years in the House of Representatives, where he assisted the city in receiving over $6 million in funding during the term. And whereas Representative Jones demonstrated exceptional leadership in his tenure, including serving as Deputy Democratic Leader 2018 to 20, Democratic Deputy Whip 2014 to 2018, Democratic Ranking Member on various committees, including insurance and banking, education, and health and human services. And whereas Representative Kevin Jones has memberships and affiliations with esteemed organizations, including Alpha Phi Fraternity Incorporation, Leadership Florida, Echo Youth Alternative Incorporated, board members 2010 to present, by empowerment activists, by development lead program chair 2006 to present, Broward Young Democrats of the Year 2009 to present, Emerge Broward County 2007 to present, Leadership Broward 27 2009 to present, NAACP 2006 to present, 100 most accomplished Caribbean Americans, ICAB Incorporated 2012, 5,000 homeowners of South Florida, Honorary 2012, Congressional Political Institute, Congress Association 2012, Legacy Magazine, Top 40 Under 40 Leaders, Top 40 Under 40 Leaders of Today 2012, United States Congressional Black Caucus Institute 2012, 100 Black Men of America Incorporated, Mentor of the Year 2010, Eye of South Florida, Top 30 Under 30 Future Leaders 2010 Leadership Broward Foundation, and Most Influential Young Community Leader 2009. Now, therefore, I'm Case Jones, Mayor, along with my colleagues of the City Commission, Vice Mayor Brian Johnson, and Commissioner Felicia Brunson, Anthony Dorsett, and Donna Smith, do hereby commend and extend our heartfelt gratitude to Honorable Representative Chevron Jones in recognition of your dedicated service to the City of West Park. We appreciate your service over the years, and we do pray the blessings and move forward.
Mr. Mayor, may I?
Yes, go ahead.
So,
there's a lot of feedback. What's going on?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, there's a lot of feedback, though.
For me?
I don't know where it's coming from.
Okay. Well, I just want to say for Rep. Jones, we understand the process for getting ideas, money, and influence back into 1965 State Road 7. And because our commission don't just wish for it, we go and work for it. We actually go to Tallahassee every year to advocate for the money and the decisions and the influence that ends up coming to West Park. And so I want to congratulate you because I've seen with my 4 eyes the influence you have. I've seen with my 4 eyes on there 5 years in a row the work that you've done to assist the city of West Park. Now, somebody may want us to not believe our lying eyes and take a leap of faith that all the people we met when we went to Tallahassee to address specific issues, and they weren't one of them, that somehow they had some influence over the outcome. Sir, we believe you. We appreciate you. We're hoping to retain you. Thank you so much for all that you've done with good people at West Park. And it's going to be our job to make sure that I join you in hoping that and educate our residents so they understand what the true process is for making things happen in Tallahassee. Thank you, sir.
I appreciate you, Commissioner, Vice Mayor Johnson. And I would be remiss, because I don't want to do this, I would be remiss if I don't also make mention of the individuals who live in Lake Forest. Also, because I always hear Commissioner Brunson make mention of One West Park, and I don't want to forget about those people here because I said Carver Ranches, so I want to make sure I mention Lake Forest also. But Vice Mayor Johnson, thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it.
Congratulations and thank you, Rep. Sheriff.
Mayor, if I may.
Mayor, if I may say, just thank you. Thank you, Rep. Jones, for all you've done and all you continue to do to stay in the fight. We appreciate you, and we're looking forward to continue to work with you to make West Park greater. So again, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Brunson.
Mayor Jones, if I could, Mayor Jones, Commissioner Smith here. I would like to also echo the sentiments of my colleagues and say thank you to Rep. Jones for all your hard work and consistency and your dedication to your fight for the people. So we thank you, we appreciate you, and we pray that you continue.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Smith.
Rep. Jones.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Rep. Jones, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. You took that one step a long time ago. You started running, and now you're full speed ahead, and we appreciate everything that you've done for the city of West Park. Keep up the good work, sir.
Thank you so much, Commissioner.
And I'll voice the sentiments of all of my colleagues. They'll think that I'm biased, which I might be just a little bit, but the whole thing is that we appreciate the service that have been rendered, and I see all the negative comments that come across. I don't respond to none of them. Because there's no way you can answer to a lie and to delusional statements. I don't even answer it. Silence is the best thing for that, and so we appreciate it. The service speaks for itself, and you don't have to prove. Those that are making the accusations, they have something to prove. If you've done the work, you have nothing to prove. God bless you, and we appreciate your service.
I think the city manager have his hand up, Mayor Jones.
City manager, go ahead.
Yes, I want to take a point of personal privilege to thank my frat brother. As a true alpha man will be, he takes my call all the time. The state rep, I've been in this business with management for years, and I would say this is one state rep that always answers the call every day, weekend, and anytime you call him while in Tallahassee and asking for support. I am positive that this time next year you will be back here as our senator to give an update along with our incoming freshman, our Representative Brian C. Johnson will be with you to give a report this time next year. Again, we appreciate you, and I'll make sure we deliver this to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, man. And City Manager, I appreciate y'all. Again, and to the residents, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you again.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, this time, we have an opportunity for the public to address. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone? Madam Clerk?
Yes, Mayor, I have one public comment submitted. I'll read it into the record. It's from Christine Judakis, 3700 Southwest 39th Street. First, I would like to follow up on an issue that I brought to your attention before COVID-19 struck, and that is the issue of vehicles running the stop signs at 37th Avenue and 39th Street. As we have been home for the last couple of months, we have realized it is worse than originally thought. We were outside at the end of the driveway just about every night from 5 to 7 p.m., and on average, 3 out of 4 vehicles do not bother to stop at the stop signs. Some of the traffic is heading north and south on 37th Avenue and goes straight through, but the other issue we have is cars heading north on 37th Avenue, barely slowing down, then turn left to head west on 39th Street. Not only do they not slow down, but we watch the drivers and they can't even be bothered to turn their heads and look to the east to make sure nothing is coming their way. With more people out walking around the block, including young children on Razor scooters, I am very concerned that someone is going to be seriously injured or killed. At this point, I'm afraid it is not a case of if, but a case of when it will happen. Second, I had the pleasure of working with the commission staff and volunteers at another food distribution last Saturday. And as usual, everything was handled in the utmost professional manner, and everything went very smoothly with no issues to be had. Congratulations on another great job.
Great. Again, thank you, Madam Clerk. I also like to constantly say that it's just been ironic that the last 4 weeks and even this week I've had funerals, and I have another one this week, and that's why I wasn't to any of those, but it's not by design. At this time, we want to make sure if we have anybody have any advisory board presentations? Broward Sheriff's Office, Fire Department, anyone? No? Okay.
Mayor Jones, Lieutenant
Sorry, I just had to unmute the fire department and then, I'm sorry, Mayor.
Yes. What happened?
I just unmuted the fire department and police department. If you'd like to check with them again.
Okay, fire department and the police. Any updates?
Yeah, fire department. This is Battalion Chief Michael Kane, and we have. I have nothing. Thank you.
Police.
Good evening, sir. This is Lieutenant DiGiovanni, BSO. Everything is status quo on our side. We want to let you know that we'll ensure that we follow up with Ms. Christine Judakis on the traffic complaint. But besides that, there's nothing to report.
Thank you, sir. Item 9, we need approval of minutes. If I can get a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Moving second. Any discussion? No discussion. Roll call.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Brunson?
Yes.
Commissioner Dorsett?
Yes.
Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Item 10 on our agenda, consent items. I need a motion.
Motion to approve it.
Second.
Moving second. Any discussion? No discussion. Roll call.
Commissioner Brunson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Bassett,
Yes.
Mayor Jones. Motion passes.
Item 11, resolutions. These are non-consent items, Madam Clerk.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of West Park, Florida, seeking City Commission approval for additional funding options for the temporary rent, mortgage, and utility assistance grant program, providing for an effective date.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second, any discussion?
Yes. During the last commission meeting, you asked us to go back and look for some more additional funds with the recommendation that we presented to you last time of using the Mother's Day event funds, the Father's Day event, and also having a couple of publications of the community newspaper to be online rather than a hard copy. So with that, you accepted that recommendation and went out and found some more from the minor home repair as you directed. I'm going to let Stephen talk about the 4 items that we are able to postpone to the next fiscal year to accomplish about $15,000 additional. Okay. Stephen, if you will, go ahead and explain that.
Yeah, good evening, Honorable Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Commissioners. Just a brief update on the recently established temporary assistance program for West Park residents. The program was officially advertised on May 13th, 2020, which is just a week ago. Since that time, we've had 10 applications that we've received, and we've evaluated each one internally. Approximately 5 of the applications are nearly complete at this point, and 2 applicants were notified they were ineligible based on the requirements of the program. We also receive calls on a regular basis. We've seen that, unfortunately, it seems to be a minor misconception that the funding may be available for retired individuals, for example, who are receiving Social Security income. But the only portion of that is that the fact that they don't have proof that there was an income stoppage in that situation. There are also folks who are self-employed who are trying to apply for the program as well, and they don't necessarily have official documentation that they're receiving income. So they can't document their income, and also they can't document the fact that there's an income stoppage. So those are 2 important elements of the program right now, the way it was approved or reviewed by the City Commission. So I just wanted to point that out. But in terms of the actual funding that we looked at for the program, the additional funding, we looked at the 10 applicants from the second round of the minor home repair applications, and we tried to evaluate which of the applications were not of an emergency type basis. We consider leaking roofs an emergency type situation, since it's leaking inside the interior of the home. It's also leaking in on the electrical portion in many cases. So that was considered an emergency item, as well as some of the windows and doors, because we had to look at that closely. And given the upcoming hurricane season, depending how bad the windows and doors are, that could pose an emergency situation as well. So anyway, long story short, we were able to find several applications that were just bathroom type renovations. So those were placed on the list for additional funding, as well as some of the applications that were incomplete, and we haven't had the responsiveness from the applicant in certain cases. So again, long story short, we came up with 4 applications, which would be an additional $12,000 that could be added to the temporary assistance program.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Yes. Okay. If I may just, I had myself on mute and talking at the same time. If I may just conclude where Stephen stopped that. You had, on the resolution you have tonight, you have $19,785. That includes all the items you approved last time, plus the that are recommended during the last commission meeting, plus the $12,000. And with the, if you add the $7,500 that you've already approved during the last commission meeting via resolution, you have $27,285 total. So if you approve the item tonight.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Yeah, I have some questions. Well, I just want to make sure that that I'm clear. So in a week since we've advertised emergency funds for assistance with rent, utilities, mortgage payments, we've had 10 total applications from people who may have lost employment in the city?
That's correct. In terms of hard copy applications, we received 10. We're expecting at least 2 or 3 more, maybe tomorrow. And again, we get calls at all times. But at this point, we have 10 hard copy applications. That's correct.
I nor anybody watching get the impression that it might mean that there is not enough need. What are we doing to amplify the availability for those people who may not be following the commission meetings?
We are sending, we send out the notice by text blast, and we'll continue to do so. I'll even ask IT to send it out more frequently. We have it on our website. The newspaper came out online yesterday via email, and it's also on that full page. It's out there on it. So we will continue to do email blast and whatever else you recommend to make sure, or text blast to make sure the residents are aware of it.
And so my last question / comment is, so aside from the 8 who were deemed eligible, and I'm assuming the core eligibility criteria at play here was the loss of income, or that they were terminated or something, their income got affected by the pandemic. So aside from those 8, I'm hearing that there were others who called, aside from those 8 and the 2 who were deemed ineligible, there were others who called but had issues where from their perspective, they needed help, but they didn't qualify for our funds based upon our eligibility. And there were 2 groups, seniors who were on fixed income and self-employed individuals. Is that what I heard?
Yeah, I mean, there's a combination of calls that we've been receiving. Some have been determined to be ineligible because of the requirements of the program. The others are still working on their applications based on their comments. So we have some out there who are apparently working on their applications at this point.
So what I'm trying to clarify, Mr. David, is when you say based upon the requirements, since we chose the requirements so that we could structure a program, if we find those requirements to have unintended consequences of making people who really need the help otherwise ineligible, I'm trying to get to the bottom of which requirements are tripping people up so that perhaps we can reconsider those.
Yeah, it's the documentation in terms of income. We've had some individuals who are self-employed, for instance, and they haven't necessarily filed tax returns. So in that case, they have no proof of the income. Again, we also have seniors who are on fixed Social Security, and in that case, there's no documentation of the loss of funds. We have documentation of the funds, but not the loss in that case. So those are the 2 main cases, the self-employed and the elderly who are retired with Social Security income.
So, Mr. Mayor, last thing, I'm going to vote, obviously, to accept this recommendation, but I would like for us to do a little bit of homework to figure out in what reasonable ways we can expand the bucket or expand the boat of people who will be eligible. Because we know instinctively there's more than 10 people in the city who needs money for rent and mortgage. We just got to figure out how to make sure they know of it and how to make sure that when they come to us, we don't have artificial barriers that harm their ability to get the help. So again, I'm going to vote to accept the recommendation tonight, but I would like, Mr. Mayor, for us to instruct the manager to go back and do some homework on how we could review some of those standards and perhaps loosen some of them where it makes sense.
Okay. Any other comments?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Commissioner Smith here. I also spoke with the city manager in regards to the additional funding options, and as it relates to the additional funding options, I've also elected, and I spoke with him to make sure that we were able to do it, and it would be clear through audits and everything like that. I've elected to forego the remainder of my commission salary for the next 4 months for this fiscal year, and to reallocate that to the TRU program.
Okay.
So I guess we'll bring that back, city manager, we'll bring that back in a resolution so it can be ratified, I guess, by you guys, and then we'll move forward. But that is an additional funding option that I spoke with the city manager about. So I would elect to forego my remaining 4 months of this fiscal year of the commission salary, which is an aggregate amount of $1,200 to also allocate to the TRU program.
Okay.
Okay, and I will certainly bring that back as a resolution in the next meeting.
Any other comments?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes. Yes. Commissioner, I see you. Brunson? Commissioner Brunson? Am I muted? Are you muted? Who muted?
Commissioner Benson?
Commissioner Brunson, you hear me?
can you hear me, Mr. Mayor?
I hear you. Can you hear me? Hello?
Mr. Mayor, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes, Mayor.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm not sure if you can hear me, but what I'm saying is I would agree with Commissioner Smith, and I will give up the rest of my salary for the remaining of the fiscal year too.
Okay. Sounds like a great idea.
Sounds like a plan.
So we'll bring back a resolution and we'll do that. And Commissioner Smith, great idea. Okay. Madam Clerk, we need to vote.
Yes. Commissioner Smith?
Smith?
Commissioner Smith? Commissioner Smith? Vice Mayor Johnson? Commissioner Brunson?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Commissioner Dorsett?
Yes.
Commissioner
If
Smith?
you can hear me, I'm voting yes on that. I'm having some technical difficulties.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. We can hear you. Commissioner Smith?
Commissioner Brandon Smith, you can hear?
It appears that he is having technical difficulties.
Okay.
Mayor Jones?
Yes.
With the motion at 4 voting yes, the motion passes. I don't have Commissioner Smith's vote. I believe he is probably trying to log back in.
Okay. Good enough. We'll move forward because it's proved it's a pass. Item 12, ordinances. There are no ordinances. Item 13, city manager's report. Mr. Balagan.
Yes, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, and I see Vice Mayor coming back. Commissioner Smith is back, and if you want to take his vote on that.
Confirm your vote. Did you vote yes on the last item?
Item number, if you told me, Mr. Mayor, item number 11, yes, sir.
Yes,
Commissioner Smith.
Mayor, did you get mine? Because I couldn't hear it. I couldn't hear either.
I think I'm back. Can you guys hear me now, Commissioner Smith?
Yeah.
Okay.
They had to vote. You vote yes or no. You voted yes or no for the resolution.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I heard. I hope the clerk heard it. I hope she did.
Thank you. I have noted Commissioner Smith's yes vote. Thank you.
Okay, good.
Okay. I'll move on to the report. I'm going to go down the list of items on the agenda. Annual scholarship program. We're just informing you that Since we've not been able to, the Education Advisory Committee have not been able to meet, we have decided to advertise the annual scholarship program application packet. It came out, it's on the website, and it's also, it was also part of the community newspaper that was advertised yesterday or came out electronically yesterday. So we are hoping that when we receive the application by the end of this month, it's scheduled to, it's due on May the 29th, Friday, at which time you can help assist us in reviewing the application and be able to award the scholarship this year. I've sent it out to all of you. I believe you all received it yesterday. We are also sending to the schools, and we ask that if you can also forward it to the school counselors to help us out in getting to the students.
Mr. Mayor, can I speak? So I want to officially go on the record with this one. This has been a pain point for me every year. I think we put out our scholarship application too late. I would hope that the commission would agree with me that we automatically, from this point on, move to put the application out in January, so that by now we would have selected, or the committee would have selected the students, so that we don't run into the problems that we did last year, where we had to give out these scholarships and children had already left and went to school and had to come back just to get the scholarship dollars. So again, my request would be that we, from this point on, just set the date to send the applications out to all the schools in January, so that before summer break, because again, a lot of kids are going to school in June now and they need their money. So if we put the applications out in January, we would have selected the students and been able to give them the money before they leave. So that would be my recommendation moving forward.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
What's that?
I'm sorry, I'll wait.
Yes, my recommendation would be the guidance counselors usually know by March the students that are going to graduate, because they've been monitoring those kids. So I would recommend that my recommendation would have to have the application out by March, so they can share that along with the graduation graduation requirements and graduation situations for the high school students.
Okay.
And Mr. Mayor, if I may, I would agree with Dr. Dorsett that March, I think Commissioner Brunson will be a better date. But I would also like to ask the manager, how are we, under these circumstances, keeping our community partners in education, our Education Advisory Committee involved, so that when it comes time for something this important, they are also having some input? What are we doing to keep them involved, Mr. Manager?
I think this is part of what Commissioner Brunson was trying to
Yes. I was
explain, that there are some certain circumstances that does not allow the committee to be able to meet at certain times of the year. So what she's trying to say is that let us administratively advertise the application for them, so they can have, when by the time they meet, they will have the application to review. Generally, what we do is, I think what she's saying, we wait until they meet and let them review the application, make adjustments, make some other requirements. But they've not been able to meet since last year, I think. I'm not so sure. Don't quote me on this, but maybe they've yet to meet this year. I don't think so. To that end, we decided, took it upon ourselves to go ahead and advertise now, because we know your pleasure will be to get the scholarships out to the students. So we were open, obviously, to not their fault. The pandemic, the COVID-19 is the reason why they've not been able to meet the last 2 months. So it's not really their fault this time. We decided just to advertise it anyway. So we will start with next year, with the following year. We'll encourage that to review the application possibly as early as October, and then we can get it out and get that out of the way, and we'll get it out in March.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Can I speak, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead. Can you hear me?
So the manager is correct. So the committee does not meet in January because of MLK. They don't meet in February because of President's Day. And depending on what's going on in March, they sometimes they don't meet until April or May. So that's why I was saying if we go ahead and get the information out, the deadline does not have to be until later in the year, but at least it's in the hands of counselors. Because if we wait until March, we don't know if they're going to meet. So what I'm just suggesting, if we can administratively put it out there in January, that way whenever they do meet, whether that be March, April, or whenever they do meet, all the applications will be in by then, and then they can make a decision so that we can give the scholarships out by June. Hopefully you have heard me.
Yes.
Yeah, we heard.
Yes. I'm going to move on to the next item. Thanks, Commissioner Bronson. We'll make note of that. FDOT street lights repair update. I'm going to have Dan explain this item in detail, but I want to just kind of take this opportunity to thank the commission with your support 2 years in a row, and of course, State Representative Jones, 2 years in a row when you've been in Tallahassee. The last 2 years, we've had to meet in the Department of Transportation, along with the bond and all of you, and we have we normally have telephone conference last 2 years with the district secretary. I'm happy to announce that immediately after our trip this year, they immediately agreed with you that they need to change the concept of the agreement that states that we are responsible for the street lights that are damaged due to accidents. So they changed that notion now, and they responded to your request immediately after we left the Tallahassee, and they sent out. They had a gentleman immediately meet with our staff, which is Dan, and start coordinating the repairs to the light pole. So I'm going to have Dan give us an update on the street lights repairs for FDOT on FDOT right away. I think I just saw him. I'm not sure if he's still on. I'm going to go ahead and continue. I think he may have dropped off of the Zoom. I will go ahead and report that out of the 7 street light poles that we reported to FDOT 2 years in a row, we have 6 of them are completed aluminum street lights. They're all on Hollandale, 1 on State Road 7, and the one on Pembroke Road is yet to be completed. They're working on that now. They should be finished with this shortly. So it's been working out very well. The next item is the update on FPL's LED lights installation. According to Resolution 2010 that you adopted on February 5th, authorizing that we execute LED lighting agreements with FPL, we were able to start the program. They were able to start a program despite the pandemic, and they've been able to complete 5 phases of all the 9 phases, and they've completed 53% of all the lights, which totals up to 457 of 857 street lights. So it's a great progress, and they plan to complete the rest by June 10th. Next month, hopefully they'll be weather permitting. So we just in your packet, you have the schedule that they submitted to us, the timeline that shows when they completed the 457, and the rest they have it projected again, as I indicated, to be completed by June 10th. Highlighted in the packet, in the 11 by 17 packet, are the streets that are completed to date. There are no questions or comments on that. I will move on to the next item. Annual Small Business Grant Program. I'll have Stephen explain this item. With the intent of, with the notion that you always like to make sure we make it business friendly, our community business friendly, and we have allocated this year $5,000 for annual small business grant program. I ask that we ask staff to look into how we can benefit more businesses in the city than just one that we do every year. So I'll have Stephen explain what we came up with and how we can proceed with this. If you approve, how we can proceed with this recommendation. You're on mute, Stephen. Unmute yourself, Stephen.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah, as the manager just mentioned, this is a programmatic option for one of our existing programs. In light of COVID-19 pandemic, as we discussed earlier, the commission has already established a temporary assistance program for West Park residents, but with the goal in mind of assisting also local struggling businesses. The commission may want to consider revising our current mom and pop program. And the two revisions that we've been looking at, one would be to possibly decrease the total award amount to possibly $1,000. If we did that, that would possibly assist 5 additional businesses. At this point, the $5,000 is for one business, but we could reduce that to assist more businesses. And the other simple amendment to the program would be to reduce some of the eligible expenditures. At this point, the mom and pop allows expenditures including business equipment, advertising and marketing, and several other categories. But in this case, due to the COVID-19, we could reduce that, and eligible expenditures would be possibly disinfecting and cleaning services, which is going to be a big requirement with the opening of businesses in the future and now actually. And also we would limit to the purchase of PPEs for existing employees in the business establishment. So that's one way that we could tweak the current mom and pop program to assist additional amount of businesses. We have the draft program guidelines and the application in your package. Hopefully you get a chance to look at that too. That's it.
Yeah, we're open to helping bringing our businesses back into the to start opening up again by helping them with $1,000 for those eligible businesses so they can use it to sanitize and disinfect their business, and also have PPEs for their employees and make it a safe environment. That's the intent. And I think we think with $1,000 to going around to 5 businesses, it will certainly make a difference for them. So we're recommending, there are no objection. We have the draft application packet just for this year that we've created, as Stephen mentioned. And if you don't have any objection, we can start as early as tomorrow.
All right.
I'll move on to the next item. Update on CARES Act funding. According to the letter that I have in your packet from the county administrator, the state of Florida received $8.3 billion for CARES Act funding, of which $3.7 billion can be shared with local government. Of that $3.7 billion, 12 local governments that are 500,000 and above are considered direct funding from federal government. So the state had to give them the money regardless. So they received, Broward County received from that $340 million. We contacted the county, and the county administrator indicated that they're using all those funds for the county programs that they have, that they're looking forward to establish. Also, out of the $8.3 billion or the $3.7 billion, $1.23 billion of it is considered funds that the state can share with small municipalities less than 500,000 population. So while we've not heard from the state yet, we've sent a lot of letters to the state, to the governor's office, through Association of City Managers, to see how they can assist small municipalities less than $500,000. Again, while I bring this to your as information to you, organizations such as Florida League of Cities and Florida Association of Counties are working to get the state to allocate and distribute the $1.23 million. And we're going to monitor this. It was brought to my attention that our own Commissioner Brunson has been appointed to sit on the committee through the from the Broad League of Cities, Florida League of Cities, Broad League of Cities, I believe, to try to assist with it. I don't know if she wants to say something about this, but I think it's a good thing that we have one of our commissioners on the committee to try to get the state to assist local government. So I just want to bring that to your attention.
So thank you. I hope you can hear me. I'm back on. I got kicked out for a second. But yes, I was appointed to this committee. We have our first meeting tomorrow, so I'll be definitely able to give some updates at our next meeting, or through the manager provide some updates on where we stand with the committee.
Great. Okay. A couple of weeks ago, the next item is the FDLE's COVID-19 emergency supplemental funding. A couple of weeks ago, we received a notice. I received a notice from the U.S. Department of Justice through FDLE, issued seeking application to fund proposed activities specifically to prepare for and prevent and respond to efforts relating to coronavirus pandemic. And with that, the funding, I contacted the FDLE, and we're able to discuss what the funding is about. We're able to ascertain that we can use the funds, which we've been allocated approximately $61,000, and we're eligible to use those funds for preparation to open up our city hall, bring for our employees so we can better have a safer environment. To that end, I'll be coming back with a resolution for you to adopt, for us to be able to apply for the funding and for the purchase of PPEs for our employees, and have a facility readiness, maintenance supplies to include high efficiency air filters for the city buildings, all city buildings, to provide service for disinfection, frequently touched surfaces such as our computers, our workstations and whatnot, services for disinfection of maintenance vehicles that our utility employees use, installation of physical barriers for our workstations such as the clear glass for sneeze guard, and the installation of equipment or software that could help us make everything paperless. Documents, instead of receiving documents, we can have it electronically submitted by the public. So we're going to be submitting the application unless you object to it. I'll bring a resolution for that. I have in your packet the letter from the Department of Law Enforcement regarding the funding process, and the Department of Justice as well. And a copy of the application is also in your packet. But I'll bring a resolution during the next meeting, and the application is due on July 1st, and we plan to submit for it. The next item is the BSO's preliminary budget consolidation for consideration for fiscal year 2021. In your packet, you have the letters for both and projected budget proposed consideration for next year for both police and fire. By just briefly reviewing the packet, we noticed that the budget for police department is slightly increased, which is great considering prior years, increased by only 1.75%. For a total of 4.9 million for our city, which is 60% of 8.3 for police department. For fire department, there was a slight error that we noticed that notified the BSO budget office to make a change to it. They had indicated that we share the cost of EMS truck for Pembroke Park. And I think it was an oversight, but when I took that service out, our share of 50% share of the cost will be 3.49 for a increase of 0.3% from current year's budget. So we'll be looking at the budget closely, and I'll be bringing you more information. Hopefully, before the next meeting, we will have the revised consideration for us to consider. We were trying to get our lobbyist was trying to get on the phone, on the line today. I'm not sure if they're watching, but on their behalf, I want to remind you that you received a letter from them in March, a memorandum from them in March indicating the accomplishments for this year. So you have that also in your packet, which shows the funding that we were, Rep. Jones and Senator Brennan and the rest of the legislative body was able to assist us with, for a total of about $750,000. Barring any changes by the governor, we are slated to receive from that memo approximately $750,000. I'll give you details later, and I'm sure the Baker Polycarp, and which I really thank him a lot on the behalf of the commission, Ms. Yolanda Cash-Jackson and Latoya Shells, they both did an excellent job, and I'm sure they'll be able to come back and join us and further expound on this item.
Mr. Mayor, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hello? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I've been locked out this is Vice Mayor John. I've been locked out for a while. Can I go back and ask a question? I'm gonna just ask a question regarding BSO since it was the last thing that was mentioned. Okay. I just want the manager to state for the record that if in case I didn't hear it, that the budget that was presented to us by BSO presumes a 50-50 split between the cities of West Park and the town of Pembroke Park.
For fire, yes. For fire, yes.
For fire, okay, got it.
Yes.
Thank you. I just want to make sure we had that on the record. Thanks.
Right.
Okay. I sent to you just before the meeting the notice about that our parks are still closed, and it's on the website. I kind of emailed it to you. We are working with the county and the surrounding cities to ensure that our parks are reopened at an appropriate time and in a safe manner. So we are monitoring all other cities as well, including enforcement that is required. As you know, the last order that was given by the county kind of stipulations to what could be open in the park, and that really knocks out our parks and so many other parks, especially the four cities around us. So we are monitoring it, and we want to make sure it's safe when we do that, when we do open, and it's the appropriate time for safety reasons. So the notice is on the website, and we'll make sure we text blast this as well. At this time, I want to ask Chris to give the budget report. And I hope he's still there. I see Chris. If you can unmute yourself.
Can you guys hear me?
Now we can.
Can you hear me?
Now we can. Go ahead.
So I was on the WebEx meeting, but I got kicked. So I'm sorry I'm not there video. I did also have connected with my cell phone, so that was a good backup. Otherwise, I'd be somewhere out in limbo land. So the budget report's in the agenda package as usual. We don't really have an update beyond what we've already discussed with you on the COVID-19 impact. Things actually have picked up a little bit. Gas consumption looks like it's being picked up. People are returning to different things. Sales tax, I'm sure, is still fading, but we'll know more at the end of this month and into June. So it's not really changed that much, but we do think it's actually picking up a little bit. So hopefully the worst is behind us, but we'll find out. Nothing is of unusual in the budget other than the COVID-19 impact to our revenues. As you know, the manager is making various cuts, delaying purchases, doing the best that we can in meeting the reduction in revenues with the reduction in expenditures. As noted before, we don't expect this to impact the property tax values upon which we'll base the fiscal year 21 budget. Under Florida's Constitution, those values are set as of January 1st of each year. So this crisis affected us afterwards. We'll know in the first part of July what the final taxable values are. And we'll also, about the middle of July, know what the state is estimating as far as revenues. We're all very anxious for that because it's tied very much to sales taxes, and a large portion of that is tied to tourism, which is still, for all intents and purposes, dead in the water. We do expect their fund balance to be about $5.9 million. It might be a little bit higher than that, but I'm going to reserve that till the June report. So everything for the budget is not any worse than it was, and it may start to get a little bit better. I'll just be cautiously optimistic about that. We are expecting to have one-on-one meetings with the audit week of the 25th. So probably towards the end of that, I'm sure those will be, virtual meetings as well. One day we'll all return back to having regular meetings. And with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions. And I'm sorry I don't have any video. I did, but not much. I actually had, when my video was up, I could see some people, but not others. So, and I had my video turned off because of bandwidth problems. Does anyone have any questions on the budget?
I have a question. Mr. Mayor, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So, Chris, just putting your cautious optimism in proper context. So the approximately $800,000 budget shortfall for this fiscal year that we discussed last commission meeting as a result of COVID-19, that picture has not changed yet, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And so what we're hoping for with your cautious optimism is going into the new fiscal year, knowing that the ad valorem taxes are not going to be impacted because this affected us after January 1. What you're hoping is that some of the non-ad valorem stuff is not as impacted going into the new fiscal year. That's where your cautious optimism comes from, right?
Yeah, I have a big one. I don't think I just mentioned it, and I can't recall if I mentioned it before, but you have a largely residential tax base. And I think if you guys will look at your own personal electric bills and compare your consumption this year to your consumption last year, because FP&L puts that on their bills, people I've been asking, they've seen that consumption go up about 30%, which mostly makes sense to me. I was expecting it to go up 30%. If people were gone during the day for 8 hours, that's roughly a third of the 24-hour period. So now that people are staying home, using more electricity and whatever, it's going up. Why that's positive for the city, it's not so positive for everyone who has to pay electric bill because it's higher than it would have been. But cities, not just West Park, but all cities tax the electric bill. So that revenue source actually may go up, and I don't think your commercial will go down by an equivalent amount because you're so heavily weighted to the residential side. Unfortunately, that activity lags by 3 months, meaning the electricity that you used in April will be billed in May, and you'll pay it in June, and we'll get it in July. So I really won't have a good handle on that, but that's another reason I'm thinking that the impact may be mitigated by higher taxes elsewhere. And the gas tax, I expect to start creeping back up faster than we had otherwise. Gas taxes are based upon the gallons purchased, not how much gas costs. And we know that through various sources that people are hitting the road more. I will tell you anecdotally, just being on the interstate and the turnpike the last couple of days, unfortunately returning to the way they used to be, which I guess is good for activity, but not so good for traffic. So there's a lot of variables there. I don't think we need to panic, and we certainly don't need to splurge on spending. But we'll keep an eye on it and just cautiously move forward, and hopefully it'll pick back up sooner rather than later.
Okay.
That concludes the report, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Any old business or new business or future agenda items from anyone? Anything for the good of the order?
Mr. Mayor, can you hear me? I wanted to put a good of the order just so that I've missed a few agenda items. I just want to put feedback on the record. One, I think as I was being cut off, heard Commissioner Smith make an offer of foregoing his salary for the rest of the year. I'll join that as well as anything left in my expense account. Should we need to, again, make additional monies available for our people. I do want to make sure, though, that people know that we have money available and that they're using it. If they don't need it, then fine, but at least we have made it available and that they're using it. And then finally, as we move forward as a city, we know that there's been some good, positive progress being made in the city of Positive Progression. I will absolutely do my part to ensure that the public is educated on what that progress looks like, and that those people who may be, even some people who are watching now and may hear Chris say that the fund balance is healthy and that we have a healthy fund balance and wrongly assume that means that we're prosperous or the third or the highest, richest city in Broward County.
I heard that.
We do our part to fix those false narratives with verifiable facts. So I just want to put that out there on the record.
Yeah, and the thing is that you can't make that kind of stuff up. It's like we the third richest city in Broward County, and you know, and the sad thing is a lot of people believe that stuff. Yeah, it's stuff that's said without facts. It just throw stuff out there, and all of a sudden people respond to it, and there's no truth to it at all, even about the money. It's just that this stuff just keep coming out. And I think in this forum also, for those that are listening that are open eared to the point of truth, for us to say the things as actual instead of them, because as long as we're silent, they think that we consent, because some people believe that silence is consent. But silence is not consent in this instance, because there's so many lies out there. Till you try to respond those lies and they go back and forth. Just a case in point, when we weren't feeding, there was a lot of negatives. When we started feeding, there was negatives. So you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. So the thing is that I just leave it alone and just make sure that those that will listen will make sure that whatever is being said, ask them to prove it. Don't just say, I'm going to prove it later. Prove it at the point you said. And they say these things over and over again and keep a whole lot of division going on throughout the city. And, you know, it's like, it's sad. It's sad. And then there are some that basically are, they're doing more politicizing than anything else because the city is doing great. And I know they try to find stuff wrong, but we thanks to the city manager, thanks to our state rep and our senator for the things that have happened. And the city is moving forward. Maybe I wish we were the richest city in Broward, one of the richest cities in Broward County. I guess Western and Southwest Ranches will have something to say about that. Hallandale and Hollywood too. But overall, we're doing great. And those that are listening, that's listening for truth, find facts. You can come to the city and get it. God bless.
Mayor, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Mr. Mayor? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm having really bad computer issues. I just have a couple things I wanted to mention under old business and future agenda items. Under old business, can we check into seeing why the newspaper email that went out is going into people's junk mail instead of going directly into their mail? So is there any filter or anything we can talk to community news about so that that doesn't continue to happen? Because had I not checked my junk mail, I wouldn't have seen it. And I know several other folks said that it went into their junk mail. So Mr. Manager, if we can check into that. Thank you. For future agenda items, I need to add the corner store on 46th in Hallandale Beach Boulevard to the agenda. And Mr. Manager, I'll get with you and ask you and tell you specifically what information I need.
I second that.
Making a motion?
I'm sorry, who seconded?
Yes, that's a motion.
Vice Mayor Johnson, I live right next to her, so whatever her problem is, I second it.
Yeah, okay. Any discussion? No discussion, roll call.
Commissioner Brunson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith? Commissioner Smith?
I think all of us are getting kicked off, so he's probably kicked off.
He's on, but he's on mute. Oh,
Oh.
Commissioner Dorsett?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
God bless. Any other?
Can you hear me, Mr. Mayor? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm having really bad computer issues. I just have a couple things I wanted to mention under old business and future agenda.
Well, you know, okay. I guess we can do that because we have computer problem, but this is totally out of order. But go ahead. You bring some more stuff up, you say? Can you hear me?
I'm sorry, Mayor. It seems like there was an echo there or a repeat, but I did get the motion and the second, and I have 4 votes in favor. Commissioner Smith, are you back on?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes. And what is your vote on the future agenda item?
I couldn't hear it. I was tapped. It kicked me out for a second. What was it?
I'll repeat the motion.
Commissioner Brunson?
I'll repeat the motion. The motion was to add to the next agenda the corner store on 46 and Hallandale Beach Boulevard.
You heard him?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, yes. You vote yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Okay, that's it, Commissioner Brunson?
Yes, sir.
Okay. For the good of the order, it is over. I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you all. Be safe and healthy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam.